This has not been your average weather. In fact, it's been everything but average. If we take a look at the overall temperature anomalies for the entire month of February, this is your average means. That means your average highs for the month and your average lows. If you combine that, this gives you a total of your average mean temperature, and it's been anywhere from 8 to 10 degrees above average for a good parts of the south. But once you got into the plains region, that was upwards to 10 to 15 degrees above average. But once you got up here and towards the Great Lakes regions, yeah, those were anywhere to 15 plus degrees above average. So some of these areas actually seen their warmest February on record since records began. And that you have to go back all the way about 125 years, folks. The only cooler anomalies in town were all the way down, ironically, into Florida, as well as into California, where they experienced a lot of rainfall. And if you take a look at March so far, that trend basically hasn't really changed. It's still been well above average across the Great Lakes and much of Iowa here and much of northern Illinois and across the Ohio Valley here. And in fact, if we take a look at the storm reports, and because we've been so elevated and so warm, it's been very unusual even on the storm report. So if we this is the entire month of January and February and parts of March so far, the green is in the hail category, the blue is in your wind category, and tornadoes is in your red. We've have upwards to 99 tornadoes so far. And look at California, folks. They've even actually had some tornadoes out there. It's been very rare for them, not somewhat rare for a good part of the south as well as of the southeast. But yeah, once you swing further north, and this is the going into February and March, folks, pretty early in the season to see all this severe weather so far north, up into Kentucky, back into Ohio here. They had a swath of tornadoes. Even New York had a tornado as well. Up here is to Michigan, even into northern Illinois, as even into Wisconsin. In fact, they had their first tornado ever in the month of February. And look at that hail yesterday, folks. They even had hail far north as northern Wisconsin. That's been the compliments of all this very unusual warmer air so far early in the season. We take a look at what's happening going forward. Here was the culprit yesterday that brought some of that severe hail and some of those tornado warnings that unfolded into the afternoon. This was a little cool front, definitely not cold by any stretch of the imagination, but still it had some colder air aloft, and that was able to cause that atmosphere to overturn. So all these areas in this region here, that is your hail reports that fell into East Texas in the overnight hours, back into Louisiana. But further north, right along that little boundary there, we had some outbreak of storms yesterday across northwestern Illinois. We weren't warned about in yesterday's video, right around that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame. It did in fact come to fruition, and there was that large hail report last night into northern Wisconsin there. And this is going to be the focal point, because it's actually going to back up as a warm front and again cause that atmosphere to overturn. But the main system that we're going to be looking for is this big time upper level disturbance, and that's going to traverse across this very active subtropical jet stream, complements of the El Nino that we're still under. That's going to send pulses of short waves and waves of energy across that southern branch, is going to kick off more severe storms into that warm sector again. So even for today, we're going to be seeing those elevated temperatures rise well above average. So plenty unusual for the month of March continues with that warmer temperatures as we move into the afternoon area. And then as we do, we'll be watching this little impulse of this little short wave that we're highlighting here. This is going to be a little short wave that's highlighted over across the southeast. And here's your main mechanism. This is your main energy, I think, that's going to be moving through as we head to Thursday and Friday. We'll kick off an even stronger batch of severe weather heading into Thursday as well as into Friday. But for right now, our main concern is right here in this afternoon. So where that short wave is and where they are going to be taking advantage of some of those higher temperature anomalies, we're going to be seeing more rain kick off into East Texas, move across Little Rock into Shreveport, back into the Lake Charles region, into the New Orleans region. These also could be see some gustier winds and some of those marginally induced hail. We had plenty of reports of that quarter size hail within this type of atmosphere. But as we head into Wednesday, I think things get a little bit more interesting. We're going to be watching this powerful upper level low that's going to be coming across the west and tapping into this more active subtropical jet stream. And that's going to be a pretty significant jet streak that's going to be moving across, as well as that cold front, right? It's going to be backing up as a warm front. So that's going to set the initial stage of overturning the atmosphere again and causing more severe weather, tapping into some of those higher dew points, right? So the dew points continue to surge. That cold front was not allowed to shift any further south. In fact, it's backing up as a warm front, and as it does, that's going to allow this moist air to feed a little bit further north as well. And with those little shortwave disturbances that will be moving across, that's going to cause more severe storms as we head towards likely dinner time tomorrow night. Towards sunset, we should see some isolated supercells trying to form along that warm front out here in West Texas towards the San Angelo region. That will be traversing across as we head into the evening area. And I think once we get towards 11, maybe midnight time frame, it likely will be close to Fort Worth and into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Very isolated batch, but some of those definitely could contain some gustier winds and some small hail with this particular setup right along that warm front as we get into the evening from likely 6 o'clock to going into midnight as we head into the overnight on Wednesday. And I think it even gets more amplified as we head into Thursday. So we got the combination of that warm front and this more powerful upper level low that will be swinging across. And we've got a more significant trough ejection that's going to be coming out from out west, and a more significant upper level winds as well. It's going to be really screaming up above the atmosphere as this will be traversing across, tapping into some of those higher Cape values. This is some of the highest values I've seen so far this severe storm season as it's starting to kick off and starting to ramp up in a big way. We're going to be looking at supercell thunderstorms likely forming east of the dry line into the late afternoon area, and those will likely merge and continue eastbound, taking advantage of that upper level low and the more induced subtropical jet as that trough ejection comes back down from the west and shifting off into the east. We're likely going to be seeing supercell thunderstorms forming along ahead of it. But before that system actually happens, we're probably going to have some showers and thunderstorms, complements of that warm front. So here's what the Storm Prediction Center has of right now on Thursday. Likely going to be seeing some supercells forming east of the dry line there. Likely starting out more discrete, more isolated, larger hail induced. And then these will try to, as they move across, more of a damaging wind threat. Right now, I think the tornado threat is somewhat on the lower side. We'll have to watch all the dynamics start to come together, but definitely hail is a more of a significant threat with this particular setup as it will be moving across. So I think you get the initial stages of some rain showers out ahead of that warm front. So if you look at what it looks like by Wednesday night, you have that one system that was over Louisiana, right? That swings through the southeast, and now that's going to be up towards into the northeast as well as into New England here with their own showers and thunderstorms, as we'll be watching the main setup starting to come together out there in California. But before that happens, we'll have that warm front kick off the initial stages into Thursday morning, all the way up into Oklahoma, all the way up into portions of Kansas. That's where they do have that marginal risk into play. And then that's going to be the warm front that's going to be kicking off this particular system and waiting for the main event that will likely come to fruition as we get later in the day on Thursday, really setting up. And more once it taps into that more active, upper level, that subtropical jet stream, then that's going to have a little bit more lift in the atmosphere, causing that atmosphere to kind of overturn a little bit more and have larger, more induced, more intense thunderstorms, as this will be moving across from west to east. And as it does, we'll have a little bit more significant trough ejection here. You can see this really starting to dip and really starting to amplify as it really starts to swing over Texas there, getting eventually into Arkansas as well as into Louisiana, and setting the stage for their own severe storms over to the Dixie Alley region going into Friday. So this would be the setup. We have the initial stages coming across Texas, and then once this hits past 7 a.m. on Friday morning, I think these will likely be in East Texas by then, heading into East Texas with their own severe threat. And I think that also continues to be amplified as we get towards peak heating of the day on Friday, going into Shreveport, back into Lake Charles, down into Jackson, as well as into Mobile. So we're talking their own all three modes of likely severe storms, with big time hail producers and some low end tornado threat as this will be moving across. There's the setup on the surface map. Likely going into Friday morning, I think it'll be done moving out of Dallas, heading into East Texas, going to be shifting into Louisiana as well as into Mississippi. We do have a cold front that will be moving through, and once that moves through this time with that upper level disturbance and that trough ejection, that's going to allow this cold front to shift and finally start clearing the atmosphere out. So it's going to set up for a fairly nice weekend for a good part of the country if you're on the north side of that little cool front that will be moving through. But if you're on the wetter side, the warmer side, into Friday, we've got definitely some heavier rain. So not only are they contending with that severe weather aspect, we are also dealing with some likely flooding rains down there in the Mississippi, as well as into Alabama, heading into Georgia, and that's shifting into the Carolinas. Easily 2 to 4 inches of heavier rainfall with this particular system. And this will only continue to lift up further into the mid-Atlantic as well as in the Northeast, heading into your Saturday. And then back behind it, we've got some pretty cooler air, and this will be more like feeling closer to average, what you would typically want to see in the second week of March, going into that second week of March with not highs in the upper 70s for northern Illinois. You're talking highs in the upper 40s. So that's a little bit more normal, what you would typically see this time of year. But the thing of it is, it really doesn't last long, folks. It's only like kind of a 1, maybe 2 day wonder. And so it's going to be really falling just on the weekend. It's going to be a really nice weekend for a good part of the country. And then once the winds turned around, I think you rapidly warm up again. But here's where the rainfall will likely unfold over the next 5 to 6 days. So once this system taps into the Central Plains, and especially as it taps into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to have a little bit more lift with it. And then it's mainly going to be east of the I-35 corridor. I think these are going to be setting up across the dry line and then shifting eastbound. But yes, definitely some heavier rains through the southeast. This is where they've got that slight risk for excessive rainfall. This area could easily pick up 4 to 6 inches over the next 4 or 5, likely 6 days. But you can see where a lot of the action is, right? It's likely, with these little cool fronts and warm fronts that will be backing up. But once this clears out, this will actually clear out this atmosphere. And maybe possibility we could get some rain showers into Friday for those areas into the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma and western Kansas. So any little rain will definitely help in a big way with those wildfires out there to help the firefighters. But yes, once the weekend passes and once those winds start to turn around again, we go right back where we came from in a big way, with widespread 70s and widespread 80s really filling in for a good part of the country, with those well above average temperature anomalies extending, going back to where we are right now as we head into the middle of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. If you like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button and catch my next update where I protect you before and after the storm.